Okay. It should be recording. So, I guess I'll start here because I tried to do a video on my phone. It wasn't working. So, in the year 2024, it was after I'd been going from job to job. Things weren't working out quite that well. They were somewhat, but not always. I ended up going to work for a friend of mine at a Circle K. I had a friend who let me stay on his couch because everywhere I tried to live, the lease would always be up at odd times, and there would never be openings around the same time, so it was just really hard to actually manage. So I'd have to stay on people's couches sometimes. When I was at his place, I had also already dealt with a bunch of crap. A bunch of, what do you call it, drama, nonsense. Stuff that seems so small now in comparison to everything else. So, I went to go work for my friend. I basically was there at a gas station. I worked as an assistant manager for like 2 years. I worked my way up to assistant manager, and then I was one. Her health started failing. She also managed to get me a place, so I ended up being her neighbor, and I started taking care of her animals and trying to help in any way I could. I can't say I was the most reliable, but I was trying. But her health was failing. As far as I know, unless she faked her death or something, she passed. She was told last minute, after being given a bunch of different medications and given a bunch of different prognoses, she was told that she had stage 3 cancer. So she ended up going into hospice care. Her son had to go move in with other family members in another state. And our landlord eventually, because someone else moved into my place, I'd let them move in with me. They needed some space, so I moved into her unit and started clearing her stuff out. Because it was all still there, her family didn't want it. Nobody wanted anything there, I guess, so I started clearing it out. Basically, having to get someone to help me haul it off in a dumpster or to a scrapyard. So I had to pay them for that. I was working at this place. It was like a grocery co-op. I worked in the kitchen there, and I made food that we'd put out on the shelves, like made to eat, made to reheat type stuff. Mostly like chicken salads and pastas and things like that. I was doing that for a while, and basically, as time went on, I started noticing weird static with my roommate, no, not my roommates, my coworkers, sorry, and I just kind of thought nothing of it. I was like, whatever, people are just apprehensive around me, I'm kind of strange. I guess I can't really judge them. So I let it all go, you know? At the time, my lease, which I thought I had a few more months on, apparently suddenly was different. It was up the next month. My landlord's suddenly selling the property to another buyer. So while they're going and buying the property and scoping it out, I'm getting ready to move. But before that, and this is where it gets kind of unbelievable, I'd been given a painting from somebody who worked at IU. This is going to be an important detail. They were an IU alumni, and they gave a friend of mine a painting, and she had a bunch of stuff because that person passed away. So she gave me this painting. I found out that the painting, not just from me, I got a weird vibe off of it, but someone else saw it and they got a weird vibe off of it too. They said it was like it was watching them, and I always felt like it was watching me, so I performed an exorcism on it. That's where things kind of get hard to believe. But it happened. I ended up with a mark on my foot as a result. So, I don't know if it's showing up on here. It's faded some over the last year, but it looked like a bite mark when I got it. It was because a piece of glass flew through the air. It moved on its own. I can't explain how it happened. I can't explain it in a scientific way. The piece of glass moved on its own. It was more across the ground. It was like through the grass and then went right into my foot, through the roof of my foot. All of this while I was burning a painting and a big bonfire thing in the back. And, I almost bled to death. Was able to get some first aid done to it, but I had already done everything myself, so when the ambulance showed up, there wasn't really anything to do. So I continued the exorcism, and it took 6 hours, but it eventually stopped burning. After that, things started getting weird again at work. I ended up mentioning it because someone asked me why I was, my foot was all patched up and why I was hobbling on it, and I was like, well, funny story, you won't believe it. I eventually told somebody because people pressed. They wanted to know what happened. After that, things got really weird. I'd turn around, right? And at one point I turned around and this lady, I never talked to her. She was this older lady. She was doing this behind my back. And I was like, what are you doing? I was freaked out genuinely by it. And she quickly turned around. Oh, nothing. I would smell burning hair at certain times. So yeah, things were weird. After all of that transpired, and after clearing out all the stuff that my friend left at her place, I ended up getting sick, physically ill. This was starting to happen beforehand, and I suspected foul play, but I don't know how to describe it. It was just really weird. But after all of that kind of happened, landlord sells the property. I end up having to move. So I have paranormal stuff happen. Then I have to move. And then I move into someone's place who was one of the people who worked at that place. And they were nice. He was a nice person. Moved in there. Started having continued paranormal, weird stuff happen. During this whole time at the first place and the second place, people would park outside of my place in the middle of the road and they would shine their brights through my front window. There's always a front window on these apartments. It was maybe intimidation or something, because I was researching directed energy weapons at the time. I was researching paranormal stuff. I was researching Aztec sacrificial rituals, things like that, trying to figure out these different transient details that were going on. So as I was putting this stuff together, I wish I had it put together better. Things in my life started falling apart, and I wasn't paranoid just focusing on that. I was trying to live my life and work on my art, but I was also had this whole thing going on the side where I was doing research because I thought some stuff was genuinely weird. Eventually somebody at my job tells me that I've been poisoned, that people were poisoning me, and I started connecting these dots. I was like, there's a lot of weird stuff happening when I'm here, So I started having weird dreams about the place. Other people who worked there started having weird dreams and talking about it. Um, I feel like some of this is and isn't connected, but there's just some weird stuff going on. When I found out I'd been poisoned, I started to figure out who. The person who told me, they said they couldn't say, like they were in some kind of danger if they were going to tell me anymore. They were really subtle about telling me, but they felt like they had to. So I think they were in too deep on something. At first I thought they were messing with me, but my health started getting really bad. And then I went to the IU hospital, and I wanted to get blood work done to see what was up. And the nurse walks in, and everything's normal, everything's fine. She's like, okay, we're gonna go ahead and get this blood work. She walks out, and then when she comes back, she's sweating buckets, and she's saying, oh, you have acne. And I'm like, that's not why I'm here. I'm here to see if there's anything in my blood. I'm not here to see if I have anything wrong with my skin. Like acne, like, ooh, that's not why I came to the fucking hospital. But yeah, so she says I have acne, and she's sweating. She was gone for a weird amount of time, and then she comes back sweating buckets and telling me some bullshit. And I'm like, okay, something's actually up. Like, the more and more I looked into this, the more and more my suspicions were confirmed. Started compiling all my notes together. Started making forum posts for it and putting it out wherever I could. I then started noticing a lot of air traffic over my place, like more than usual. Because, every small city has air traffic here and there, right? This was more than usual. This was like frequent, and it was always like right over it. I'd hear it, and the timing would be weird. And it was at this point where I'm like, this is not, just paranoia. This is something more. So I hope I have enough time to do all this. So that starts happening. Then I get fired from my job while I'm at the other place. So it's like the air traffic happened after the exorcism, and then I get, I lose my other place. I get fired from my job. I end up living with a friend for a while. Drives me nuts, but I do what I can, and he does what he can do, and we make it work. We both survive, and the whole time I'm trying to get a job, I'm selling things to make money, and like just random shit that we find. So it was kind of like living like a scrapper life for a minute, but it was like honest work. It was, selling random shit we found in the dumpsters was somewhat honest. you know, Trying to survive, trying to get by during all of this. Then I get in a confrontation when I'm at this other place with this friend. This guy, like, he waits for me to go to this parking lot, because I go to this parking lot and just sit and meditate. And that's where I was a lot of the time. This guy worked at that apartment complex. He must have known it. We started getting harassed when we were there. I talked to other people. They had break-ins from staff that worked there. This guy was apparently connected to some of that. He shows up with a German Shepherd, and he starts saying that I'm trying to steal his things. And I'm sitting here, I'm like, well, I think the guilty dog barks first, and your dog is quiet. But you're barking a lot. So, it's kind of odd. I noticed the pattern. I ended up reporting him to the police because I didn't have my phone at the time, but I report him later because he follows me for like 2 miles and just harassed me several times and tried to intimidate me and tried to get me in a fight like 3 or 4 times. So my friend witnessed that, and he's like, yeah, the dude was offering you out. He was trying to fight you. And so we have this kind of weird thing happen. There's this extortion thing involving bed bugs where they put bed bugs in the apartment, and then they have the inspector come by. The inspector finds dead bed bugs, and he says you need to have like a $1,200 heat treatment done. I look up the prices, and it's only like $120. So they marked it up They marked it up 10 times. They marked it up 1,000%. So we're paying 1,000% for this heat treatment. Well, I'm living with this weird friend of mine who, no offense, like he's a cool guy, but he's he's so different. He's like tripping me out, constantly like taking me by surprise. While that's happening, I have this like really serious shit going on, and I'm talking to this like person who lives in the place, and she's having harassment issues. So I'm trying to get like legal documents typed up while I'm couch surfing, while I'm looking for a job and no one's hiring me for no reason, while I'm getting like accused of robbery and harassed and chased around with a German Shepherd. So that was a crazy phase. After that, I end up homeless, and I'm like really not sure what to do. So I'm like, well, I'm just gonna pack a bag. I'm gonna have everything I need on me, and I'm just gonna travel. And then a friend of mine lets me stay at her place for a little while. So I stay there. I get a call from an old friend, and she says that I might have a daughter. So this old friend hits me up while I'm living somewhere, tells me I might have a daughter who's like 6 years old. I actually did throw up because I was so much anxiety and stress in that one moment that I started vomiting. Like I felt like just like I was like, why didn't I know this whole time? All this stuff. I was freaking the fuck out. I ended up going and meeting with her, and then I move in and stay at her place for a little while so I could talk shop and figure out what's going on. Her landlord ends up kicking me out of the place because she saw me go there a few times. So she says I'm banned from the property. I can't come back because I'd stay the night there sometimes. And I was in between, and then I ended up staying there for like about a few weeks. I don't want to get anyone in trouble. It's just at that point it was easier on everybody if I stayed in one spot. So I stayed there for a few weeks, and then I was kicked out. And the people who were keeping me there were actually really nice and considerate for the most part. So I started noticing weird stuff happening in the town I live in. Um, I hope it lets me put this whole thing up. Anyway, so this whole trend of crazy bullshit keeps happening. And the whole interactions with the IU people, like IU license plate cars, start following me. And I tested this. I went like all the way to fucking Evansville, and I live in Indiana, or in Bloomington. So I go from Bloomington to Evansville, then I go to Louisville, Kentucky on foot, and then I go back to trying to get to Indy. I end up going in a circle, then I end up back in Bloomington. Total trip was 400 miles in like a month, camping out on the highway in the woods, like next to the highway. So I'm roughing it, and not only that, but I'm traveling all over looking for signs and clues of what's going on while this is happening. Try to document what I can. I've got 2 busted phones in my backpack. Then I get separated from my bag. My backpack gets separated from me. All of my food, all of my gear. I've just got my shoes, my pants, my shirt, and my pride. And I fall into this ravine because there's this guy. I run into him, and he tells me I'm being followed. He's like, he sees it happening, and he's like, hey, someone up here almost hit me because they were like driving parallel to you. When you stopped there, they stopped right up there. He's like, you don't he's like, I started noticing this. You don't want to go that way. You want to go around. You want to go through the well-lit areas. So I'll walk with you. So I'm walking with this dude, and he's saying he's seen this before. He's had it happen to him. He helps me a lot. And he gets me to a point where we're kind of safe for the most part. And we sit and we talk shop about what's going on. Conversation gets really dark, but it makes sense. A lot of this stuff I don't really want to say right now because it's just like really dark. But there's apparently some dark happenings that I'd rather not discuss right now. So as all that's happening, I then eventually get separated from all my gear. I can't remember exactly how this happened, but I tried to get out of the town and I tried to cut through woods to get there. I ended up falling in a ravine, separated from my shit, which I stowed away somewhere because I wasn't sure if I'd be able to climb out of this area. I couldn't climb out of it anyway. I was already weak from exhaustion. I traveled really far away from it before I ended up stuck in this area I couldn't get out of. Um, I didn't realize I had gone that far until it was too late. And then I ended up losing the ability to walk when I was out there, so I started crawling. And I was crawling for about 5 days. On like day 2, I tried to kill myself because I heard coyotes in the distance, I heard gunshots in the distance, and I had a feeling there was some really scary shit going on out there, and I don't know what was. So I was like, it might just be more convenient to die quick, you know. A lot of this I'm leaving out a lot of details because of my time constraint, so it might seem a little bit nonsensical, but there is a logical progression of these events. Um, so as time goes on and I'm traveling through these woods trying to find civilization again, on like day 4 or something, I'm able to kind of limp again because I found some berries and start eating those. But I was basically starving to death, and the berries were probably not very safe to eat. And so I drank water that I tried to filter and siphon out of desperation, and that gave me a second wind, but it was definitely polluted. So I probably wasn't in too good of shape when I got out of that ravine. I'm covered in like a ripped up shirt. I have like tied in sections because it's barely hanging on me. My pants are all ripped up. My whole body's caked in mud and blood and covered in scars because the thorns were just ripping me open. And the only way I could get through was I had to crawl through thorns the entire time. So when I'm finally out, I'm dripping with blood and covered in mud and probably infected and had ticks all over me, I'm limping for about something like half an hour, trying to find any place that's populated that I can like tell someone, hey, I need some assistance. I'm dying. Can anyone help me? I waved at people, tried to get them to help. They just looked the other way. They looked at me like all like crazy, like whoa, and then they just looked the other way and pretend they didn't see me. And I was like, okay, I'm barely alive. I need some help, but I'm gonna, you probably think I need like rehab or psych help. So I ended up finally crashing down at this fairgrounds, and I say, hey, like I need some assistance, like for real, like I'm dying, like right now, like I need maybe an emergency room or something. So they take me, of course, to the IU hospital yet again. And I've had several bad interactions with this hospital in the past, but it's always spooky and suspicious when I go there. But I decide I'm gonna bear with it. I'm a little delirious. The first thing they do is they start taking my blood, and at this point I have to push it out of my veins like this. I apply a lot of pressure and push it out just to get blood to come out. And then they kept coming back for more and more. They finally put me on the IV. They might have had me on the IV first, I can't remember. So this whole cycle is going on where it's like I'm a little suspicious of them because of all the weird stuff that happened in the past with them. They start talking to me kind of weird. Finally, someone gets a hold of my family. They show up and they talk to me, and they're kind of freaked out in the condition I'm in. Then they put me in the psych ward at the hospital, and I'm there like about 4 days, but they told me it would just be 3. They were making it sound like it was going to be like a week, and I was like, so I started raising hell after like day 3. I was like, you said 3, I expect 3. I ain't gonna fucking kill myself. Let me out of here, or I might rip your head off. Like, I'm not in a good mood. I don't want to be stuck here. You keep asking me to do drugs. Like they keep asking me to like give me benzodiazepine and Seroquel, and I'm like, I don't need those things. I need to like physically recover so I don't, like I'm half dead. And I'm pretty sure I'm making sense at that point. I'm socializing with people there. I'm passing time. I'm participating in their little games they want you to play. But, I'm also like, hey, I just survived literal hell. Like, give me a fucking break. So they tell me think I have schizotypal personality disorder. And at this point, I just kind of laugh. I'm like, no, that's not what's up here. You people with your hospital that has a fucking red pitchfork for a logo and put your mental health patients on the sixth floor and have them do little activities in room 6606. You guys are not the ones I'm going to trust to evaluate my mental health, and that's not why I came to the hospital. I came to the hospital because I was dying, and I wasn't sure if I was going to survive another day in the elements. Let's be real. um, I got in a conversation with the doctor who evaluated me. What he did was he watched me through the cameras. And then he came and he told me this whole thing. And I'm like, well, dude, I'm a little creeped out that you're watching me through the cameras. And then you used that. You didn't interact with me. You didn't get to know anything about me. You just used this weird bird's eye view and shuffling between each other, whispering to each other kind of bullshit to try to say that I have something inherently wrong with my judgment, is what it sounds like. And so I call them out, and I'm like, so your cameras with your gait tracking software and your facial recognition software, yeah, as soon as I bring that up, I say something about it because I recognize the model camera and I've read the patents on them before. So when I say that, he's like, "How'd you know that?" So I tell him how I knew it, and then he went from like all calm, cool, like this smiling in my face to like freaked out, like, "How'd you know that?" And I'm like, "Whoa!" Like I strike a nerve with that one. So they obviously found that a little weird, that I knew about those cameras and I knew how they worked, and it made the guy nervous. Um, so I can understand why they might have legitimately thought I had these problems, but I was in there to be evaluated for depression because I tried to kill myself. But I tried to kill myself because I was in an extreme survival situation and there was a good chance I was going to die slow. So there was some kind of rapport and understanding beforehand, and that went out the window as soon as I went into the psych ward. And it was, at that point, my own personal agency felt like it was taken from me. That's not the first time I went to a hospital and I felt like I had no say in my treatment or I felt a little coerced. And so I have some serious problems with that hospital. I would sue them if I could. But I had bigger fish to fry at this point because I was still trying to piece together everything that had happened. I was still trying to figure out why it felt like my life had been systematically destroyed, why I had been threatened on the street multiple times, why I had people break into my house. I forgot to mention this part. Before all this happened, there was a bunch of harassment, and it went on for like the whole year, and some of it happened beforehand, and there were instances in the past that, looking back, might have been a part of this same pattern, where there was harassment. There was at one point someone leaving notes, like cryptic notes and messages for me in weird spots, which freaked me the fuck out. Um, Someone telling me I was being poisoned, and then I found out, like, yeah, I can't retain weight or anything anymore. I started having like all these issues back then. Now it's serious because I lost all of my body weight, so I look like a skeleton. But after that, I went in for a job for a drug test. Turns out the drug test was at IU. It was at one of their clinics. I'm like, a fucking course, because they own this town, and because I highly suspect them of being corrupt. Like, I'm just giving my opinion here. I'm not trying to say I know this for a fact, but they have done things that I don't think were necessarily in line with the well-being of their patients. I think they bypassed and usurp people's rights a little bit, And I think that they don't actually try to treat things in the way they should. They have different motives, and the treatment becomes secondary. And this is based on my own personal experiences. One example is a few years, it was like maybe like a year before all this happened. Um, Maybe like a year and a half before all this happened. I want to say 2 years, but I'm not sure. I went in because I had myocarditis. No, it was way before that. The myocarditis thing, I went in. Um, they did like a basic evaluation because I thought I was having a heart attack. They gave me nitros, which calmed my heart rate and helped with the palpitations, which made it easier to sit in the waiting room. So I was like, that was fine. They went and gave me an evaluation, did like a ultrasound thing on my chest. That was fine. And they're like, well, we got to be sure, so we're going to do like a little procedure real quick to make sure. And I'm like, okay, I'm sure it's reasonable. So they put me on a medical, like a examination bed. They start drugging me up. They put on Sober by Tool. So it's like this like weird psychological mind fuck. While they drill a hole into my crotch and they run a camera up through my body up into my heart and chest cavity area, and they're like looking at it, and they're like kind of like making jokes. Oh, no, he's shy. And it's like, well, he stripped me naked out of nowhere, drilled a hole into my crotch. I was a little apprehensive. I'm gonna be fucking real. Well, fucking James Maynard Keenan's vocals are like blasting in my ear. Like, now's not the time for that shit. Okay? You gotta give a guy some fucking warning. Like, I didn't really get much prompting or warning. I wasn't able to really properly, I think, consent to that procedure with any kind of knowledge of what was about to happen. So that's what happened there. That was fucked up. So that's another problem I have with IU, is that was weird. That's not even the part I'm mad about. That part at least was in the medical documentation. After that, I started having heart problems again. And so the nurse came in, I'll give you a little something for it. And I'm thinking, oh, they're going to give you the nitros again. So they give me an IV drip of fentanyl. Everything just goes black. And I wake up an unknown amount of time later. My facial hair is like significantly longer. And I'm like feeling like Metal Gear Solid 5. Like at the beginning of that game. I'm like, what the fuck happened? Why does everything feel different? Why is my mood off? Why is my brain hurt? Don't know what's really going on there. And to this day, nobody fucking believes me. I don't expect anyone to. It sounds nuts. It sounds absolutely insane. But I have a bone to pick, and I'm going to pick that bone till it's done. Um, this is, one of those things, it's like you can't exactly let that go. That's not the kind of thing you should let go. That's the kind of thing that warrants investigation. And so I investigated that. And investigated that along with a lot of other things before shit hit the fan and before I ended up stranded and barely surviving in the forest. When all the, what people call it, gang stalking, when that stuff was happening, where I was being followed, I had people coming up and like being like, hey, don't step on toes, like this and that, giving me vague threats, to the point where I can't really describe what they're saying enough to like use it. It's like all admissible in court type shit. Basically, the whole surviving on the lack of evidence for what they're doing. Like, it's just anecdotal, so I'd have to go and say something, and then it becomes a he said, she said kind of thing. I can't really prove any of it. It sucks because they do it by design. It's designed this way so that they can, if somebody's on to whatever they're doing, which I assume had something to do with the MK Ultra era stuff, the technology that was developed in that time, and the techniques for trauma-based mind control. It was a type of conditioning where they would traumatize someone, cause a split in their personality, cause extreme dissociation. They could also use things like sound. They could use video, like YouTube and all this social media shit. They could use that shit to try to make people dissociate and then subliminally hijack their brain. So this is the stuff I was looking into before that happened. I was also looking into like reports of demon possession, so I don't know if that's a factor. Maybe it is. Maybe it's a coincidence that all this happened around that time. But that's when things got serious, is when I performed an exorcism. So, I'm convinced the devil has a role in this. I know that sounds crazy. It's like, oh, the devil, is that a real thing? And I'm like, I personally, I'm not like a Bible thumper. I'm not like a religious purist. But I believe in God, okay? I believe that there's some kind of God. I also believe, if that's true, then there's probably some kind of devil playing God and controlling society and dragging everyone into this hellish nightmare. And that's more or less what it says in the Bible, if you're going to get biblical on it. I'm not really using the Bible as my reference, I'm using personal experiences. But if you want to get biblical, it says that this world is not, the world of Jesus or the world of God, or Jesus was representing love. He says it's the world of evil, of darkness, of Satan. It's that they were the ones who corrupted the world and caused it to fall, and caused mankind to fall. And so if those types of beings are real, and their opposite, which was actually truly rooted in love, does exist, then these love-hating beings would obviously have plans and methods of action in order to influence the world. And so, I'm not saying everybody should be distracted by everything. Everybody should be paranoid, yada yada, but I am saying, look at the state of the world. People are being bombed to hell on the other side of the planet. The country's falling apart. People's food and their social security is being cut. They're suffering at an all-time high. There's all this weird technology coming out that's like basically brainwashing everybody. And maybe I'm being a little bit ham-fisted with this. So, take this with a grain of salt. But when I look at all of that, and then I look at what's like happening in the world, I look at the ancient references, I look at my own experiences, I'm like, yeah, there's probably some kind of like, we might have like some kind of Voldemort situation. We might have like a Satan in the flesh situation on Earth. We might have I don't know, or a spiritual darkness that just exists. And maybe it's existed since the beginning of time. But we have darkness in this world. And so I'm talking about that. Apparently by looking into this stuff and talking about it, I stepped on toes. I caused problems for people, and then they caused problems for me. And I basically should be dead like 100 times over, but I'm not. So maybe it's so this dumbass right here can say this shit. So I'm saying it. That's really all I got. There's more details I think would work, but investigating it all in the time limit that I have is not really going to be easy. So at some point I'm just going to put my notes out. I'll put a link. I have a giant, really disjointed list of notes about how some of this stuff connects. Some of that information's outdated. Some of it's subject to change. Some of it I believe might be on point. Some of it maybe not. But it would be nice to not be the only person investigating this thing. Not the only person looking into it. I also have suspicions about human experimentation. I think that might legitimately be a factor. And I have just a lot of reasons to believe that. So I'm not just going to say, hey, we all need to act like it's the end of days and freak the fuck out. What I am saying is, I think there's some dark things afoot. And I think those things need to be addressed. And I think they're done in a deceptive and sneaky, kind of evil kind of way. And I don't want to be the guy to just start pointing my finger at people. Being like, oh, I think everyone's in on it. They're all against me specifically. I don't think that. Okay, I straight up do not fucking think that. What I think is that whenever somebody looks into this shit, people look into them and they try to destroy those people. And I think it happens all the fucking time. Or I think even when someone's just living in a certain way, like a certain wavelength or frequency of living, people go after them because that threatens the stronghold on this world of darkness. Because if evil has a stronghold on the world, then the good, positive people break that and they destroy it. So they want to keep those people down. They want to keep those people in this negative frequency, or whatever you want to call it, this negative state of mind. And they want to keep people, if they keep people happy but dumb, keep people brainwashed instead of being able to see what's really going on and being able to ask questions and investigate. And I think for me, a part of that is addressing the fact that I kind of went through some straight hell, and I'm not gonna act like it was my fault. I'm not, I just accidentally stumbled into this horrible situation I never wanted and had to fight every single instinct of mine to keep going and prevailing. I'm not gonna act like I just did that to myself. I know what happened, but I know how it looks. So that's why I'm telling my story the way I'm telling it. Anyway, I'm about out of time, so I'm gonna go ahead and end this here. I'll make a follow-up video later. If anyone has questions, leave your questions. If anyone has comments, go ahead and leave your comments. If you want to call me schizophrenic and say that I need to get an unlicensed firearm or start eating lead pellets, fucking go for it. I don't give a shit.